What works in sales is evolving and changing, and lots of salespeople are struggling to adapt. This isn't just opinion either, it's borne out in the numbers. All of the key metrics that we care about in sales have been moving in the wrong direction. Number of opportunities is down, win rate is down, average order value is down, length of sales cycle is up. At Flume, we help sales teams succeed even in these most challenging of times. We have content, tools and templates designed to help across every stage of the sales process. However, right now, there's one question that we get asked again and again. It speaks to two of those metrics, win rate and length of sales cycle. The question is something like, how do I quickly convert good conversations into closed-won opportunities? In this video, I want to share a structure for doing just that. I'm super confident that if you routinely explore with your customers the 5 areas that make up this structure, you're going to see your win rate increase and your sales cycle shorten. Hi, I'm Paul Cruz. I'm Head of Sales Performance at Flume Sales Training. I've worked in B2B sales for 20 years in a mixture of roles across various markets, mainly advertising and media. My first job straight out of university was with the Daily Mail Group, selling advertising space in the kinds of trade magazines that you might see on Have I Got News For You. Titles like Sheet Metal Industries and Small Ships Europe. Tons of phone calls and a terrifying boss. However, it was a great introduction to sales and I got excellent training, the kind of training that I think is very rare today. That really set me up and helped kickstart my career, and since then I've been lucky enough to work at some great businesses like the BBC, Money Supermarket and Rakuten Marketing, as well as a couple of fantastic startups such as Fluid Ads. I always found training and coaching other salespeople to be the most rewarding aspect of leading teams, so I was incredibly happy to join Flume Sales Training about 6 years ago. Now I spend every day working with B2B salespeople to help them hit their targets, earn commission, succeed and grow. It's great and it's enjoyable, and I also think it's important work, now more than ever. That's because I don't think selling has ever been as tough as it is right now. Before we get into the structure, let's consider why quickly closing opportunities is so difficult right now. To do that, we need to change perspective and look at things from the point of view of our customers. What's changed in their world, and why is that making our job more difficult? Firstly, they're more risk averse than ever before. There's lots of uncertainty out there right now. More than ever, customers aren't keen on spending money. They're very busy and they certainly don't want to make a mistake. Making a mistake will definitely cost them time, but it might even dent their credibility within their business. I even have a friend who recently missed out on a promotion because he was involved in bringing on a supplier who turned out to be a nightmare. In short, there are lots of reasons why customers would rather stick with their status quo right now. Secondly, decision-making groups are getting bigger and more senior. It used to be the case that when the customer said yes, you could be pretty confident that your deal was going to close. Those days are over. The average number of stakeholders involved in a B2B buying decision stands at 11.2. To put that into context, that's pretty much doubled since I joined Flume. That means that your customer has a whole bunch of colleagues that they need to bring on board if your deal is to close. Remember, it only takes one of those stakeholders to say no, and your opportunity is going to flip to close loss. This is a massive change, and it's had a profound impact on what does and doesn't work in sales today. Salespeople who rely solely on building friendships with customers are not winning. Lastly, they need super strong internal business cases. More than ever, your contact is going to have to work hard to get spend signed off. You may have successfully sold to them, but now they need to sell on to their colleagues. They're never going to sell your product or service as well as you would. We can't just leave them to it and watch them fail. They need our help and support throughout the decision-making process. To summarise, buying has got harder for buyers, so selling has got harder for sellers. Here are 5 steps that you can take to maximize the chances of your opportunity closing quickly. Number 1, personal buy-in. Consider all of the conversations that you've had with customers that sounded incredibly positive. How many of them actually closed? There's probably a big gap, right? Just because the customer's been making positive noises about your solution, it doesn't mean that they're ready to take on the extra work of actually buying. We must ensure that they're truly bought into the solution and are committed to driving the process within their business. Consider asking questions like, what are your thoughts on the solution? Why do you think it will work? What impact do you think it will have personally and to the business? Do you want to go ahead? Will you be recommending this internally? Number 2, understanding the decision-making process. The customer's internal process is probably complex with lots of people involved. Your job is to help them navigate that process. You can only do that if you have as comprehensive a view as possible of the entire sign-off process. Consider asking questions like, what has to happen between now and getting the decision made? Number 3, prioritize the first thing. Too many sales opportunities simply wither on the vine. You send over your proposal, it sits in your customer's inbox, and then it gets bumped down the screen as other pressing tasks take priority. The customer simply never gets started. So, rather than concentrating on the final sign-off and becoming a sales pest, identify the first step in the customer's process and help them take it. If you can build some early momentum, it will be much more likely that they'll go the distance and complete the process. Try asking something like, what needs to happen next? When will that be happening? Number 4, understand the other stakeholders. Your main point of contact is bought in. So at this stage of the sales process, it's not them that you need to worry about. It's the wider decision-making group. It's them that will ultimately determine whether or not the solution gets signed off. And it's more than likely that at least one of them will be skeptical or create some kind of blocker. It's much better to find that out now and deal with it than wait and have to deal with it later on. I can speak to this point with some experience. I remember being tasked with buying a new CRM in a previous role. I spoke with a bunch of salespeople and chose which CRM I wanted to buy. Spoiler, it was the big one that we all know about. I had the budget available, I had the sign-off authority, at least on paper, and I was keen to buy. I was a slam dunk as far as a salesperson was concerned. However, I was forced to involve other colleagues in the decision. Some of them were hard work, some of them were hard to get time with, and some of them had different opinions to me. Building consensus across that group was incredibly tough for me as the buyer. The whole process slowed down, my inbox started to fill up with other tasks, and eventually I started to avoid talking to the salesperson who was chasing me incessantly. That slam dunk for the salesperson slowly died. In the end, I ran out of gas and went back to my day job. We never changed CRM. This kind of situation plays out again and again with buyers, and we need to work harder as salespeople to prevent it. Ideally, we should multi-thread deals. That is, we should aim to have open lines of communication with multiple client stakeholders. However, that's not always possible. So, try asking questions like, who else will influence the decision? Who or what could block this? Who will have the most positive or negative influence in the group? What questions will they need answering? What could stop this going through? If the salesperson who I was dealing with that time had done that, we probably could have worked together and got that deal over the line. Number 5, agree on how best to collaborate. You and your contact will need to work together to get the solution signed off. The dynamic should not be seller versus buyer. It should be a partnership with both of you working together on getting this deal over the line. Deciding now on how best to collaborate will massively increase the chances of success. Avoid simply asking, how can I help you get this signed off? That question rarely gets anything other than, leave it with me. Instead, try, what would make this easier to sell on? What could we do to make it easier for the other stakeholders to say yes? Selling and closing opportunities quickly has never been as tough as it is right now. Number of opportunities are down, win rate is down, average order value is down, length of sales cycle is up. Our customers are more risk averse than ever before, and decision-making groups are getting bigger and more senior. They need super strong internal business cases to sell on your solution to their colleagues and stakeholders. Get their personal buy-in. Explore their decision-making process. Prioritise the first thing on their list and not the last thing on yours. Understand all the other stakeholders to minimise any nasty surprises. And get their agreement on how you can collaborate in solving their problem. So, there it is, my recommended 5-step process for closing more deals more quickly. Tweak the language so it's right for you and your situation, and just give it a go. Good luck.